Now, CEO Africa Roundtable is a leading Pan-African convening platform that brings together chief executive officers, policymakers, development partners, and investors to engage in candid, high-level discussions on key economic and policy issues. Now, through these roundtables, conferences, and strategic engagements, CEO Art facilitates collaboration, it promotes investment, and supports the alignment of public and private sector priorities. The platform is designed not only to foster dialogue, but to drive tangible outcomes that contribute to economic growth, regional integration, and long-term development across the African continent. Now, today I'm joined by Kipson Gundani, who is an economist by profession and is also the chief executive for the CEO Africa Roundtable. Gundani has been instrumental in fostering collaboration and driving economic growth across Africa by connecting top executives. Now, the focus on creating the platform for leaders is to share insights and strategies, thereby enhancing business opportunities and continental economic development, something which I don't see Africa going towards a lot, and it's worrying me most of the time. Now, previously, Gundani served as chief economist at Buy Zimbabwe. This is 2015-2018, and also chief economist at Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce 2010-2015, where he significantly enhanced the organization's value proposition. Gundani, thank you very much for joining us, and I really appreciate your time, especially in such a short visit and a busy schedule.
Sure, it's a pleasure to be in Cabs.
All right. Kipson, I'm looking at the African continent, right? We talk so much about African growth, African integration, but I don't see us actually doing it. Are we a continent of islands?
Sure, true. Your observation is very spot on. This is a very stressing matter. It's a very frustrating matter.
Yeah.
Actually, if you get the idea of integration being muted even in the days of Kwame Nkrumah, but up to today, there is no meaningful integration that we see in place, save for a few pockets of success, maybe in the EAC and maybe to some semblance in the ECOWAS region. But if you come closer home, SADC, it's when it looks at economic integration, even the free trade area level is still very much struggling to come to fruition. If you look at the Continental Free Trade Area, which was launched in the few years back, you actually don't see the level of aggressiveness and the political will is demonstrated by taking the right steps to integrate this particular continent. But this is working in our disfavor as a continent because we remain fragmented. Our economies remain very small, they are chicken change, and they do not compete at the global stage. Yeah. And this exposes the continent to actually, I don't want to use the word abuse, but maybe unfavorable agreements with the rest of the world. So I strongly feel that we do not have demonstrable political willingness to do so, because this is a leadership issue. That's number one. Number two, our economies are also very fragmented and we produce more or less the same commodities. In other words, we are not diversified enough. And that kills the scope of trade. For instance, if you look at the trade between Zimbabwe and Botswana, very small.
But we share such a massive border and a lot of people between us.
And a lot of people between us. If you look at the trade between Zimbabwe and Zambia, the story is the same. Zimbabwe and Malawi is the same. Maybe the predominant trading partner of all these countries is perhaps South Africa.
Is it a trading partner or a gateway market access deal?
Precisely, you can put it that way, but you can clearly see when you look at the numbers, that's the dominant player in the marketplace. And this does not work because the trade has to be fair, it's got to be two-way. For the survival of these countries.
Yeah. So when we look at SADC, and I want us to zoom a little bit in there, SADC is divided into two silent communities. You've got SADC and you've got SACU, right?
Yeah.
All these people share the same exact resources. Precisely. However, they exist in two spaces, which then means I think Africa is like the Maldives. We are
Of
54
course,
islands.
Islands, exactly.
Without the ocean between
without
us.
the ocean between us. And that fragmentation, like you rightly put it, it doesn't help. SACCO is better. Okay, at least you can see some.
Yeah,
You can see some.
it's better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least you can see some real union.
Exactly.
Within
And it's the
SACCO.
oldest union in the world.
In the
anyway.
world.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? And it should be the aspiration of the broader region now.
Yeah.
Because if you also see SACCO, South Africa is the dominant player. They tend to set
Yeah,
the rules.
you're not to say anything bad about it, but it's such a difficult gauge to make
Yeah.
in the sense that of all the SACU countries, they've got the largest population.
Yes.
So you've got 2.3 million in Botswana, 2.5 in Namibia, 2 point something in Lesotho and Eswatini. And so they are just extending their services through that.
They've just broadened their market.
Their market base, yeah. So the integration, right? You said something there that is a leadership issue. What leadership is this? Because we are talking with you, obviously, from Africa or CEO Africa. But what leadership is it? Is it this? There are other CEOs that we voted for.
Exactly.
And there are other CEOs that we employ on merit.
Oh, precisely.
Whose problem is it?
I think it's the CEOs with the bigger P, which
Okay.
you perhaps call the presidents, in
Yeah.
my view.
All right.
For me, if we are serious about integrating Africa, there are certain things we need to forgo, especially at leadership level. This won't come to reality if we don't forgo certain political privileges and for certain political boundaries. I strongly believe that unless we reach a time when, as Africa, we've got one government, all right, we've got one economy.
Yeah.
By one economy, I means the rules have to be the same.
Yeah.
All right, the rules of the game have to be the same.
Yeah.
And to such a time when we've got one system, one currency, one all those kind of things, then we can talk about the real economic integration. It is very difficult, I tell you today, to do business, perhaps, let's say, with West Africa.
Yeah.
It is actually much better to do business with the Europeans. Why? Because there is a lot of non-tariff barriers along the way. There's a lot of infrastructural gaps along the way. The rules are not just the same, and it makes doing business in Africa very, very difficult. No wonder why intra-Africa trade is very, very low. We actually trade more with the rest of the world than we do amongst ourselves, despite being closer together.
Yeah, and same on that, I'm going to bite something that I heard from President Emmerson Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe during the Binational Commission of Botswana.
Yes.
The one thing that he emphasized in his speech was that there is too much tariff issues between Botswana and Zimbabwe. We are double taxing each other, but with the same tax, we don't see them anywhere else. Is it an African thing where I feel Zimbabwe is not a brother? It's like a competing kind of in an enemy sense kind of thing.
It is a competing culture.
Okay.
All right. And this is historical. Remember, these boundaries are very much colonial.
Yeah.
And very much artificial.
Yeah.
This thing was not there. If you read into history and the trade among us Africans, it was vibrant. There was trade even in the Stone Age era.
Yeah.
Right. That was happening. Apparently, there is still trade. We are trying to improve it, but if you look at the years that it has taken to do so, so this protectionism kind of culture, the fear to lose what we have without looking at the bigger picture, is the biggest undoing when it comes to integration, particularly in the region. Yeah. So the instrument that most governments use, obviously, is tariffs, but these tariffs actually they hurt trade. They hurt the living standards of people. They don't help in improving the status and stage of our economies.
And when we look at these rules, right, between these countries, these 54 countries on the African continent, who wrote these rules? You know, who made as the template to write these rules?
So it's two-pronged.
Okay.
We are to blame as Africans, primarily. But secondly, the division is also colonial, like I said.
Yeah.
So this is a mindset that was planted in us by those that colonized that at some point before. And we need to dismantle this. So there's a certain mindset shifting that is required. And this has to start at the very top.
Yeah.
Right? And then it cascade down. That's number one. Number two, I think we've also become so comfortable in our little corners and enjoying the powers that be without looking at the bigger picture. So there's hesitation to lose that comfort.
Yeah.
Right? We need to rule our little corners. We need to take charge of our little corner without looking at the bigger picture. So for me, everything rises and falls with leadership. Hence, CEO Africa Roundtable. Besides appealing to the CEO of the corporates, because they are leaders in their own right, but we also appeal to the CEOs of our nations, who are the ultimate leaders that can actually unlock this situation.
All right. So now when we look at the governments themselves, and this is going to take us into CEO Africa, governments and corporate, right? One looks like the dog watching the other, and one looks like the beggar begging the other for benefit. I say this, and this is basically, I'm saying this from Botswana perspective.
Yeah.
When you look at Botswana's economy, it's always been government buying, private supplying, and private relying on government money.
Yeah.
Meaning that government is the dog that can tell the private, this is what you comply to. And then the private says, okay, thank you, sir, we'll comply. Can that work?
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's a huge challenge. Obviously, in any country, the government is the biggest buyer. That's natural.
Yeah.
They're the biggest buyer. However, that lack of diversification creates also a very strong controlling arm. And it may not, if you do not have a progressive government, may not spur serious private sector growth and development, which is what most countries need, because the private sector should be the engine for the particular growth. Looking for example that you've given for Botswana, I think it's not accidental. It is emanating from the resource architecture of the Botswana economy, where it was predominantly mining diamond-based to be precise. And the biggest player in that space was the government.
Yeah.
And naturally, they then create feeder sectors into that particular sector. But I'm happy with the Botswana because they've realized that. And hence, they've come up with the Vision 2036. They've come up with the Botswana Economic Transformation Program. And that is a demonstration of a government that is forward-looking.
Yeah.
That is planning in long term. And I was in a meeting with the Economic Planning Commission and also some directors from the Ministry of Finance. You really feel the direction that the government wants to direct this economy to. And they've put the supporting mechanism and they are doing the legislative changes for them to. So it's not them and us when it comes to that. They are trying to build Team Botswana that can diversify this economy to be a high-income country. By 2036.
All right. But now, when you look at it itself, do we have the right leadership set in the African continent and obviously into Botswana to say we can follow the transformations? Governments in the African continent, whether it's taking long or not, governments in the African continent have changed their body language. All of them.
So I see we are now in the days of Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah,
right?
We are now seeing them.
We are now seeing them. We are now seeing the Kwame Nkrumahs of our days.
Yeah.
Even if you listen to the president of Botswana, Advocate Duma Boko, whom I am a passionate follower of, if you see his stance on Pan-Africanism, then you can say there is a leader that speaks the real truth on the emancipation of this continent. You also see a lot, even if you go to West Africa, even closer home, if you look at East Africa, we're talking about Rwanda off the camera. You can see the Pan-Africanism. Yes, it might not be perfect, but at least we are seeing some nuggets.
We are writing our own template.
We are writing our own template. Africa was that continent which was used to be bullied, and we also agreed to be bullied, and we also kind of had a begging mentality. But you actually see a gradual growth out of that, which I think is positive.
All right. So now we talk of CEO Africa. Maybe let's start giving Botswana what it is, because you touched on Pan-Africanism. And Pan-Africanism is seen as a very old, traditional, not necessary thing. That sounds very rural. However, it's spinning back, but it's spinning back in the modern days. Can it work?
It works. Look at America right now with their president, no matter how you view him.
Yeah.
But he is giving America the sense that America first.
Yeah.
So we can call that Pan-Americanism.
Yeah.
If you want to
Okay.
put it.
Yeah.
We should have our own version of Pan-Africanism. Africa first. No one, absolutely no one, is coming to grow this continent for us. It has to be us.
And no one has actually come to.
No one has actually come to, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
It has been an issue of plundering and taking out of us, and you are given trinkets in return. So that realization that we can grow this continent and we've got everything that we need to grow it, that's the very starting point, because it puts in a belief system in us that we can do it. And I think we are getting that sense at the moment. So I'm a Pan-Africanist. I believe in Pan-Africanism, but I believe in conscious effort to make that Pan-Africanism a reality.
Not a trending speech.
It should not be rhetoric. It should not be a podium issue.
Yeah.
We should be able to demonstrate on the ground that Africans can do it.
All right. So now you interact obviously with a lot of African leaders, especially within the private sector. When I say African leaders, I'm not talking politics, I'm talking economic leaders. What are you reading on the African continent in terms of trying to grow the economy?
So if you look back, especially in the SADC region outside South Africa, most of the companies that were running our economies were foreign. But that demographic structure of the private sector is changing.
All right.
We're now seeing a lot of black or indigenous entrepreneurs that are creating conglomerates. For me, that's a positive. I see and interact with those people on a daily basis, and that gives me a sigh of relief to say we are getting our act right. However, our laws were not designed to celebrate an indigenous investor.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the majority of these countries, they were designed to celebrate foreign capital. And by foreign capital, we mean capital from the West. Right?
Yeah.
If I am an investor from Zim trying to invest in Botswana, the treatment was going to be different from those that have got another skin color. Yeah. So these were colonial rules. But I'm happy that there's a huge legislative agenda, country to country, to try and rectify this and celebrate black capital by blacks. That's number one, and I get it in the interaction with the CEOs. Number two, our people are now more exposed. Things that we thought previously they were preserved of others.
Yeah.
We can see that we can also be the same. I think you can also see the story could be the same here in Botswana, where you've got a rising capitalist class of blacks that are investing heavily into this particular economy. What we now need is to amplify and accelerate this. How do we do so? We need to deepen our own capital markets so that we enhance capital access. That's number one. Number two, we need to have our own training centers of excellence where we can actually nurture startups, grow them into conglomerates. I was speaking yesterday with the richest man in Zim right now, Strive Masiwa.
Yeah.
Started with Econet, and that's a wholly Zimbabwean company when it started.
Yeah.
So that's a demonstration that you can create a multi-billion-dollar company from an idea, from elsewhere. So that sense of belief, that belief system, is what we need to inculcate in our people. Then we give them the necessary amenities, the necessary enablers. So financing is one. We need to create that way for enabling laws that allows them to make money as much as they can.
So now, when we talk about enabling laws, our problem with Africa, and this is why I said Africa is like islands without a sea, right? We can't integrate. We all are afraid of the other. We generally would not be comfortable with Zimbabweans coming here in Botswana to do something. But that's a southern south kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
When you go up north, though, it's just Africa. It doesn't matter where you
Africa.
come from.
Yeah.
How do we de-educate? And I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like I'm separating, right? When you look at Botswana, you look at Lesotho, a bit of Namibia, and Eswatini, South Africa, the Saku people.
Yes.
There is a bit of a tendency of seeing that, no, you're African, but you're Zimbabwean.
Yeah.
Or you're African, yes, but you're Namibian.
Yeah.
I mean, or you're Zambian.
Yeah.
We have that. But on the other sides of the continent, you're African.
Yes.
How do we de-educate that segregatory mindset?
Yeah. Like you said, it's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
Because it's historical, it's cultural, it's sometimes part of our DNA.
Yeah.
All right?
Over time. Yeah.
Over time. So it's an overtime issue. Hence, it's a leadership. You know what? Politicians, they are very powerful. And
Yeah.
what they say on the podiums should be very considerate.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. The speeches should be unifying speeches. And we see that. All right. When I listen to President Duma Boko, when I listen even to President Ramaphosa speaking, and other
The tone
presidents,
has changed.
The tone has changed. For me, that is the starting point.
Yeah.
And this was the case during the days of Seretse Khama.
Yeah.
This was the case during the days of Oliver Tambo. These guys were brothers. Why? Because they were faced with one common enemy. They wanted to liberate the region.
Yeah.
Now we also have one common enemy. We need to end poverty in the region. We need to grow our economies in the region. So there is that unifying factor which we need to confront as Team Africa. And the longer we continue to operate in our silos, which you call your little islands,
Yeah.
the longer it's going to take us to really develop this region.
All
I can tell you, Botswana is not going to be free if it sprints in its growth and leave others behind. Because the obvious is going to happen. People will just influx into Botswana.
Yeah, we've seen the
Yeah.
same. And we see the same across the border in South Africa, that
Yeah.
when we are busy leaping forward,
Yeah.
thinking that we are developing ourselves, we are setting ourselves up for a situation where
Yeah.
Zimbabwe or Zambia or Malawi is left
They were
behind.
just influx. They were just influx into Botswana and looking for opportunities. And you create another challenge.
Yeah, but then we obviously need to do something about this, and that would include if, let's say, Strive, for example, started in Zim and has become the richest man in Zim, needs to be able to transfer out that opportunity, not necessarily the opportunity, but transfer that growth
To other
into Malawi to make sure that Malawians don't come into Zimbabwe, but rather he's investing in the Malawians for them to co-invest and balance the economy.
Exactly. And we see that happening. You find companies like Liquid, they now operate in
Yeah.
Botswana. That's the real integration that we are talking about. That's the real economic growth that we're talking about. Apart from people moving borders, the corporate citizens should also move across borders without discriminatory treatment.
Yeah.
This is where the issue comes. Are you a Botswana or not? All right? So your companies should not be treated. That thing should be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier was that how do we federalize or governmentalize Africa in the sense of one federal system or one government system, one currency system? A lot of people are not happy with that outside of the context.
Yeah.
But can we do it though if we put ourselves towards it?
That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But that's the key enabler. Just imagine if you had one currency across the entire continent. You don't have to suffer.
I know when I go to Zimbabwe, I don't have to be thinking of currency exchange. I'm buying whatever I'm
You
buying.
see, the exchange rate losses become zero.
Yeah.
All right? And also trade becomes so efficient. If our financial systems are integrated, I can do my transaction seated in Harare and pay my counterpart in Botswana with relative ease. That's the scenario that we want.
Yeah.
But, well, to reach that, it's going to be a long journey. Why? because we are protecting what we think we have, but that's chicken change.
But what do we have?
Nothing. You understand? This is where we say now it's a mindset issue.
Yeah.
To say actually we are depriving ourselves as a people by clinging to our little. We just need to open this thing up. We just need to integrate the system. We just need to integrate our governments, which is the elephant in the room, because it means giving out certain privileges and power.
Yeah, and you look at how you would see something happen in Botswana. Let's take asphalt or road construction, right? Botswana clearly, learning from South Africa, is getting there. But this road is going to affect the truck that I drive, carry molasses from Zambia. When I send my truck to Zambia for molasses, when it comes back, for sure it's going to hit potholes. I'm going to come back here and have to deal with hydraulics and so on. But if I'm to say I'm opening a road management company by Kazungula, hey, my tax goes up by 38%. So I can't fix the road that eventually affects both our trade.
You can't do business.
So what should we do? We can't take down the borders, not now, because we've already created identities, virtual or not. But we need to take down the borders for... Let's corporate don't vote.
Exactly. Let's do regional infrastructure value chains.
Yeah.
I see it's beginning to happen. For example, if you see at Zambia building the Badoka Gorge, which is an energy facility, that's positive. If you also see it, the very nice bridge at
the Kazungula Bridge,
that's positive. Where governments come together, join forces to build.
And no one died. No one shot anyone.
No one dies. You all benefit out of it.
We didn't fight. There was no war.
There was no war to that effect. So we need that regional infrastructure value chains. Because for us to do economic activity, we need to be connected.
Yeah.
And we need also to be connected physically by this sound infrastructure. So we need to be building corridors in terms of these roads, collectively as a team. Fully knowing that it serves all of us. We need to be building these utilities. For example, doesn't it boggle your mind that the whole SADC region has got a serious energy deficit? And the question is why?
With so much resources, though.
The question is why? What stops us from pulling resources together, put a facility that can power the entire region? Why do you want to do our little pockets? This and that.
Because I'm busy trying to sell to you.
All right. So you find it affects everybody. So this coming together as a region for a serious economic agenda, which can be projectized, project by project based, I think it gives the basis in the long term to be integrated.
All right. So talking of that integration, as CEOs of the African continent from the different sectors that you play in, there has to be a tone. But is there a way to leverage that tone into governments without disrupting anything, but rather making them feel, these guys are taking the burden from us?
Yes, this is exactly what we are trying to do. CEO Africa Roundtable in our little corner. In our little corner, where you try to point the direction where, as a private sector, we aspire to head to. With the hope that the governments will enable that. We are also seeing an opportunity, reading from the body language of these governments, to say perhaps we are now at the right stage to also give governments direction. So we are setting the tone, if you want to put it that way, to say the roundtable is about connecting people to people and people to opportunities, continental. But that also requires the people to then be connected in a unified fashion, to be governed in a unified fashion, and all those. So we are trying to provide a lead to our governments with the anticipation that they will take heed and do the right for them.
So now we obviously have a lot to look at. Someone outside of the continent does not believe that Africa has got the skills and the requisite potential to have leaders who can actually drive their companies. If at all is our companies coming here, they will say, I'm coming to invest, but I'm bringing my whole team into the African continent. Where did we go to school? Which is different from them, because an educated African man has stamped a passport.
Of course, and that's a boggling issue.
Yeah.
But it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't even happen at executive level. I can tell you there are a certain group of investors, which I want to mention by name or by country.
Yeah.
You find that they bring even cleaners from their countries when they are
Oh,
undertaking
yeah.
a particular
Yeah.
project. Okay, and then you wonder, don't we have cleaners in Africa?
They bring their own security.
Their own security. Don't you have security guards in Africa? So I think this is exploitative investment. And as Africa, we should say no to such kind of things. And it's a self-respect issue. Right? To what extent do we self-respect ourselves? We have got Africans that are running companies outside Africa, in the United States, in Europe and everything else. They are Africans. They are not in any way different from us. We can also run those same companies back here home. We've got people that are able. We've got people that have went to school. We've got people that have been trained. Mm-hmm. So it's, for me, we don't need to allow that to happen. Surprisingly, you cannot do that in their countries.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't do that in their countries.
When you come to invest, they say, okay, how many, you are going to have 20 cleaners. Okay, we know this particular people who have to be there.
Yes.
But this conversation needs to be had, right? Who can actually have it?
The challenge, my brother, is that we've also become so corrupt.
Oh, yeah, there's that disease.
There's that disease. So you find that, for example, if you look into my country, Zimbabwe, some of these sectors and jobs, they are so-called reserved sectors. but
you find the non-reserved people there.
You find the non-reserved people there. An example in Zim is the brick manufacturing industry.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We had 3 huge brick manufacturers which were local. Mm-hmm. They've all been driven out of business by foreigners. But that sector is a reserved sector. Mm-hmm. Then you begin to wonder, how is this working? There's a law. But how is it happening? Yeah. So I think this is actually the biggest blow to African growth prospects. Corruption. And fighting corruption, for me, is also a leadership issue. It has to be fought from the very top. All right? The tone has to be set from the very top. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now, see, this is the thing. We are existing in a space where the hand that feeds us also dictates how we move at the same time. Mm-hmm. We don't think that we can feed ourselves. I mean, it's an African thing that, like you said when you started, if you are coming as an African and you start a business here, I feel it's easy to ask you, what are you giving me in return? You know what I mean? But those ones don't ask you. No, when they come, they already offer the envelope.
They offer the envelope.
But we now impose that on fellow Africans. How do we demeasure ourselves to say, guys, it's money. It builds the same road that builds this money. Or the money that builds this road is the same one that builds it elsewhere.
If you look at countries that have effectively fought against corruption, they've been very ruthless. I don't have to tell you this.
Yeah.
They've been very ruthless, some to the extent of putting you before a firing squad.
Yeah.
All right? That's how you need to fight corruption. Because corruption is very endemic.
Yeah.
Once you get involved in it, the money is so sweet because it's out of nothing.
Yeah.
Really? All right? So to really take that DNA out, it takes ruthlessness. It takes
the way you treat a cancer.
Yeah, the way you treat cancer. You need to ban it, literally. So, but you need the will from the very top. The challenge becomes if the system is corrupt up there. Then you've got a huge challenge.
Yeah, but you see, I always have a look at it from a different angle, right? That the public officer was not corrupt. until the businessman walked into the office.
Of course, it takes two to tango. It takes
One
two
has to create the first offer.
of course. Remember, I'm walking in and I know what I want,
Yeah.
right? And I can pay any price to get what I want. So I offer the price. So for it's the onus is on you to up the price. And upping the price is simply saying, no, we don't do this here.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's the thing. We are going to punish the public servant. We're going to arrest the public servant and the politician and
But it
throw
will
them in
never
jail.
end. Yeah.
But we forget that the country we can't, or the people we can't mention, when they come and they don't speak your language, they don't understand, let's say in this case, English, the only thing they know is
The envelope. Yeah. They put it on the envelope.
if you start asking, so which seat are you born from?
So,
You will guess.
well, we can be laughing about this,
Yeah,
but
but
that's reality.
It's the reality and it's serious.
That's
yeah.
what's happening. It's serious, and it's hitting us
Yeah.
as a continent. We need to find a way to really deal with this. Otherwise, we are going to be left with nothing as a
Yeah.
continent, and we would have sold everything for a song.
All right.
Simply because I didn't have the self-respect to refuse a little khaki envelope.
All right. So now let's look at the intercontinental free trade area. The agreements have been set. The modalities are taking a little bit long because they affect other people who are not us. I mean, imagine if Botswana only sold its beef. Now, especially with the vaccinations and trying to say, look, we're going to vaccinate our cattle. It can be consumed on the African continent. I'm going to Angola. I'm going to Mozambique and Zimbabwe to sell my beef. If Botswana did that, someone is going to get affected.
Exactly.
And if we decide, no, we only use oil from Angola, someone is going to
Going to
get
be affected. So, Africa in general is wrongly integrated in the global economic order. And we have also ascended to certain agreements which do not favor us. And they are not relevant today. All right? And this, therefore, works against projects like the Continental Free Trade Area. All right? Because Botswana has got a deal to supply its beef to Europe. Right? So, when I walk in from Zimbabwe and they say, can you please sell me certain tons of
at the
beef?
same price.
Your priority is to meet your quota for the Europeans and everything else. So this kind of agreements,
Yeah.
I don't blame whoever signed them because perhaps they were favorable at that particular point
Yeah.
in time. But we've come to a point where they are negating prospects of integrating ourselves. But I think the global geopolitics, especially what is happening now, is awakening us bit and bit.
We couldn't wake up from COVID. What's a few months of Strait of Hormuz?
Of course, there are certain nuggets of gains that we'll get from that.
Yeah.
At least we'll get your pockets of pharmaceutical factories that
True.
are built from here and there. And also, the Hormuz thing is another story.
Yeah.
But we have got the oil. Nigeria produces oil, Angola produces oil, and Dangote has built a very huge refinery that can service Africa.
Yeah.
Why are we not just comprehending that and supply ourselves as a continent? So I think I'm optimistic that there will come a time when, as Africa, will certainly self-sustain, especially in key essentials.
Okay.
Well, the story is huge. There was a time when we couldn't even feed ourselves. I think basic bread and butter issues.
Yeah.
We could import chickens as far as Brazil, right? Import grain as far as Ukraine,
Yeah.
right? But we've got the land.
Yeah.
We've got the people.
Yeah.
Actually, we've got the youngest.
It's actually in our culture.
It's in the culture. All right?
Yeah.
And also, there was a certain belief that was planted in our brains, which thinks foreign is lacquer.
Yeah.
When something is European,
Yeah.
we don't believe in our own products.
Yeah.
All right. That's why we feel so proud putting on a suit from Turkey.
Yeah.
And wearing an Italian shoe and belt, and you think
Yeah.
So this might it's a whole lot of issue, and that I believe that as we progress, we are getting more and more conscious as a people that we can do it on our own.
All right.
Yeah.
So now to build this, we obviously have a lot of things as the African continent to deal with. One of the things is one of what I believe in. I'm a big believer in kill the passport.
Sure.
I'm a big believer in that, and I know it doesn't sit well with a lot of people, especially in Botswana. That I have no problem with Zimbabweans don't even show ID. Walk across the border.
Botswana is too big for Botswana. Yeah,
Yeah,
only
we are
2.3 million.
Yeah, which is less than 10% of the land that we're sitting on.
So there's a whole vast resources which are not exploiting as Botswana.
And we don't remember this. We've gone to school, but Botswana, I'll tell you this: if you want executives and marketing experts, you are going to find them in Botswana, more than any country on the Southern African region.
Sure.
However, we are not skilled in plumbing because we were never in Zimbabwe. When you finished your Form 5, you took a diploma in plumbing or welding or whatever. In Botswana, we never did that. In Botswana, when I finished my high school, I am literally either flying to the UK or Malaysia or South Africa to go to school. So we have these white collar jobs.
Yes.
We've got them.
Yeah.
We are sorted.
Yeah.
Now, and we are good at that. In Botswana, we're not going to take
Yeah.
the manual labor away. It's okay. Can't we just open the borders? If Zimbabwe is lacking marketing experts and PR people, let them go from Botswana to there because we need the plumbers here. Bring your plumbers, take our advertisers. How can we do that?
Exactly. So that comes with free movement of people.
Yeah.
That comes with free movement of people. Unfortunately, this has been on the cards for so many times.
Yeah.
There are so many other fears, but I also understand the fears. They come through unbalanced growth.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have a high concentration of people heading one direction.
Yeah.
That also creates its own challenges. But certainly killing the passport will be a plus. But I've heard President Duma Boko talking about this, and that also gives us a sense of relief when they talk about that. That's number one. But number two, it's also coming up with an integrated regional development agenda, right? Where you leave no one behind, so that you don't create other unintended consequences from an otherwise good and noble initiative.
Yeah, which then comes to this, when you talk about the integrated development agenda, is there a way that our national development plan, in our case NDP 12, can now be submitted to, let's just take it regional, to SADC and say, SADC, this is NDP 12 from Botswana, this is NDP whatever from whatever country, you are not going to move as Botswana if you have not.
We created an institution called SADC, which is headquartered here. They are supposed to be driving this particular agenda.
Yeah, but the people are sorry to say, it's just a place where people can be employed and get paid. This is the painful part, in dollars.
Precisely. This is the challenge.
Yeah.
So our SADC has not risen to the occasion.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know what the reason is, but I presume also they've not been given the political power to be able to do that.
But do we know the manual, actually, that set up SADC? Do we know the founding document of SADC?
Of course, it was a political brotherhood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it still largely remains so.
Yeah, so social club for the first president.
For the first president. All right. So, but we needed to graduate from that.
Yeah.
We are not so many in the SADC region, 15 countries, 15 countries. We're not so many. Yeah. So we can actually set the template to integrate Africa.
Yeah, actually, if you are to build AFCFTA, SADC should have been successful to translate it because the oldest customs region in the world is within the SADC region.
Which is SADC.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is SADC. So the template is there. So what is the problem? The template is there. So what is the problem? So the issue is, like you rightfully said in the very start, we need to forego our little islands.
Yeah.
All right. You can still remain president, but let's open up. Let's harmonize our our policies. Let's harmonize our development agenda. Let's build regional value chains.
Yeah.
There's no reason for us owning it all. Botswana can do one part, we do this other part, South Africa the other part, and this region will provide the whole.
Yeah.
And we can therefore trade with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And everyone gains along the value chain. So the issue of regional value chain is very, very important.
So the role of the people in this, and this is probably just my belief, that the free movement of people can set the foundation and the tone.
Exactly.
All right, of making sure that we can do this. But even if we say, okay, free movement, do away with the passport, from here to Ghana would cost me about 17,000 pula. From here further out to New York will cost me 6,800 pula.
So, it's a long story.
Yeah.
Africa, we are just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's not only about the cost of the flight.
Yeah.
For Zimbabwe, we probably don't need a passport to Ghana, but I know many Africans would require a passport, would require a visa. I mean,
to Ghana,
to get to Ghana. That visa costs money, it costs time, and all those.
But someone can come from outside the continent to come to here without a visa. But when we go to them, visa.
If you are British, you can literally walk into any African country without a visa. If you're an American, more or less the same.
Yeah.
Why are we doing a disfavor to ourselves? Why are we hating ourselves?
Yeah.
So a fellow African requires a visa to enter your country, but a non-African would simply pitch up at an airport, get the passport stamped, and you get in. These are the things, these are the soft issues which as Africa we need to deal with. Yeah. All right, let's just get away with these issues of visa.
Okay.
Why do I require a visa to enter?
I mean,
if I can afford to buy my own ticket,
clearly
pay for my own accommodation,
why
do I require a visa to enter a particular African country?
Yeah.
All right. So you find the system has always not favored African entrepreneurs to do business within Africa. It has favored entrepreneurs from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we need to deal with that.
So it's going to be easier for someone from Europe or the Americas, let's say US or UK, to come and open a company in Botswana than it would be for someone in Angola.
Further to not asking for a visa from them, you give them concessions.
Yeah.
Yes, tax holidays. You don't pay tax for the next 10 years. You don't do this. And by the time you say now you pay tax, they've taken much and they don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah, so now, whose money is better?
So money has got no color.
Okay.
We just need to treat money equally, no matter who is bringing it.
But clearly some money looks better. Because of the person who's carrying it.
This is the tragedy. But I think an investment by an African into Botswana is as good as an investment by a Chinese.
Yeah.
The rules have to be the same. No preferential treatment.
Yeah.
We are all equally going to create jobs. We are all equally going to put production on the table. So why differentiate? So we need to realize this as a people.
All right. Yeah. So now let's go into this and summarizing, obviously, CEO Africa Roundtable. I try to define what it is from my own understanding, but I need to know what is it and what are you doing in Botswana at the moment and what are the plans?
So we are a platform. We connect people to people and people to opportunities at CEO level.
Okay.
We are a dues platform.
I must make myself CEO.
So we are a dues platform.
Okay.
So we are here in Botswana. We did set up in Botswana in 2023, actually.
All right. Okay.
But we are now picking up our activities this year. So in July, we are going to host a CEO's Roundtable in Botswana.
All right.
At the GICC from 6 to 7 July, to be precise, where we are bringing in CEOs from other parts of the continent to Botswana, and the agenda is Botswana. Why? We have read the BATP, we have sold to the agenda.
Yeah.
There are so many impactful projects in the BATP. And according to the figures, they are estimating to raise in excess of 514 billion pula. The Botswana capital markets cannot do that alone.
Yeah.
You need the support of other investors elsewhere. And we would like to bring those investors from sister countries in Africa, not Europeans, not Americans,
Africa.
but from Africa, to invest in those particular projects. So the program that we are hosting in July is project-based. We'll be discussing BETP, and we'll be putting BETP on the table to the plurality of investors from other continents, from other countries, so that at least we can help the Botswana government live to its dream of Agenda 2036. That is my mission here.
Okay, so in understanding and summary, so the roundtable that's happening in Botswana in July is so that those who are sorting funding, because I know that a lot of the guys who are in the BTP are now stuck, like you said, 50 billion pula needed to activate these projects. Now you are saying these guys are coming, or the CEOs are coming into the country to say, look, you want to do a pigari, it's fine, I'm from this country. I am going to kick it.
For the money. Exactly. That's what we need. That's business. That's
and,
real
but we need to get the mindset of the people who are going to be receiving that to understand African money is also money.
Yes, it's about partnership.
Okay.
If the terms are favorable, if we are all winning in the game, so why not partner? This is a win-win game.
Yeah.
So yes, the mindset shifting. Eventually, we are also going to be running mindset shifting masterclasses. We already do this.
Okay.
To other in Zim, for example, we do this in Malawi and Zambia. It's important that we really invest in mindset shifting. I need to have the belief and trust that I can do business with you.
Yeah.
I can partner you. We can build a conglomerate if you partner.
Maybe because of our skin color, the signature is not proper.
But that's a reality. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Actually, you can see there's now also a big deal of Zimbabwean entrepreneurs operating in Botswana at the moment.
A lot of them. And actually, some of them are packing back. Zimbabwe is getting better.
It is, but there's still a lot of scope to do business in
It
Botswana.
can't be Zimbabwe. It has to be Africa.
It has to be Africa. That's the most important point.
Yeah.
If we are still going to have this unbalanced growth, we have in and out flows of people, and it doesn't help. All right. I'm pleased to have a multi-billion-dollar company whose directors are 5 nationalities from Africa. And they say, we joined hands and we did build this. And they made a difference to Africa. Then we are talking.
And the names are easy to pronounce.
They are easy to pronounce.
Kipson, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to take your last word for this, and I'm taking this word obviously with focus of how do I, let's say I'm not in the BTP, I didn't submit my idea to the system, but it's a brilliant idea and I want to grow. Can I come and learn something?
Yes,
Your
system, join us in July for the event, but more importantly, you can also go on our website. Just type CEO Africa Roundtable, it leads you there. Or you can go on what is called the Investor Hosting Center, which is our capital matchmaking platform. You upload your project there, it becomes visible.
Let's say that again. It's what?
Investor Hosting Center.
Investor Hosting Center.
Yes.
Okay.
So the system allows you to upload your project there, but obviously we do vet it. And we can also help you develop it to bankability stage. You upload there, it becomes visible to our pool of investors. And on that platform, we've got an excess of $3.5 billion investable funds.
Sitting in there,
looking for projects that are bankable. So we've got a good story to tell.
Yeah, but is Africa, let's take Botswana in this case, because you're coming to Botswana for the roundtable. Is Botswana still lucrative to other Africans?
It is. Do not read into the downgradings. All right?
They're not done by us anyway.
Yeah, it's another story of another day. They don't mean anything for us. Botswana, by any standard, is a torchbearer when it comes to investor treatment, when it comes to security investment. If you look at your repatriation laws and everything else, I think in SADC region, you can sing out Botswana and Mauritius.
All right.
They lead the pack.
So Botswana is open for business.
It's open for business. That's
All
why
right.
we're here.
Yeah, all right. Gibson, thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure. I appreciate that out of your busy schedule, you managed to come here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting us, and we hope to do big things here.
All right. So Ray Gibson is from CEO Africa Roundtable. And like I said, it's a leading Pan-African convention, or rather a convening that brings together African CEOs, African leaders in the private sector and investment sector to come together and find a way to invest. And this July, they are bringing many of them into Botswana from the African continent to say, you have an idea from BETP or wherever, let's see how we can fundraise for you. And they have other platforms as well. Just go online, look for CEO Africa Roundtable. Until we meet again, have a fantastic day.